Hello students. Today we are going to learn few basic aspects of third line of body defense, which is the last part of immunology for BSc zoology students. Now let us know what is meant by third line of defense. If a pathogen is not controlled by innate and non-specific barriers, then the body develops a third line of defense, which is highly specific immune response or adaptive immunity. What does it mean? So already we have seen that we are all born with innate and inherent abilities which are non-specific. That means we are able to fight against a broad spectrum of pathogens irrespective of their nature. That means we are having a broad spectrum of abilities to fight against the germs. So thereby, within no time, as we have discussed in previous classes, from 0 to 12 hours of time, our body will try to eliminate all these pathogens. But in case somehow if they are not controlled by the first two lines of defense mechanisms with which we are all born with, then obviously the body will not keep quiet. It will try to develop specific immunity through its experiences with the novel or the new infection or the new types of germs. So thereby the body, it helps, the adaptive immunity helps the body to build up resistance and fight against mainly the germs which cause long-term infection. Why we call it as long-term infection? Because as I told you, we have been born with the abilities to fight against the germs within no time. So if at all a body of the organism suffers for a long time with the particular pathogen which is said to be novel pathogen or the new pathogen, because our body has not come across this particular pathogen before. So that's why even in the case of corona, you must be knowing that the corona is called the novel corona. It does not mean that we have been not infected by the coronavirus. Earlier also we have been infected with the coronavirus, which is a different variety. So now we have got a different strain of coronavirus, which is definitely a mutant variety of the earlier versions of coronavirus. That's why it is called the novel coronavirus. I hope you have followed what is meant by novel pathogen and what is the significance of this adaptive immunity. That means during our lifetime also, our body will try to develop immunity against the pathogens in the day-to-day life. So this line of defense largely comprises of B cells showing humoral response, that is we already know through the production of antibodies, and the T cells showing cell-mediated response, which is also called the cellular response. So we already know that T cells and B cells are two types of lymphocytes, and these lymphocytes particularly, they get activated by the presence of antigens. Now let us know briefly what is meant by antigen. So antigen is also called immunogen because it is actually immunity generator, or it is nothing but antibody generator. You can see here on the screen, antigen word itself is derived from two words, that is antibody generator. The prefix of antibody, anti, and gene of the generator are put together to form the word antigen. So antigen is any substance that triggers an immune response. So it is not, it could be anything. It could be protein, it could be a carbohydrate, it may be fatty material, or it may be combination of all this, polyglycans, something like that. It could be any substance, living or non-living, which will be able to elicit the immune response of the organisms. It is called the antigen. So usually an antigen is a marker protein that is located on the surface of bacteria, but usually majority of antigens are proteins, and these proteins are basically the proteins which are located on the surface of bacteria and viruses, or it may be part of a just toxic molecule such as the venom. So the body recognizes this foreign antigen as non-self. That is very, very important. If body fails to recognize. So thereby, the autoimmune diseases occur if the body fails to identify self-antigens from non-self antigens. That means in our body also, we have a lot of self-antigens, and we know very well that one of the important antigen, that is antigen A, antigen B, which plays very important role in the formation of various types of blood groups in the humans. Then each pathogen has its own highly specific one or many antigens. So that means if you have a pathogen like bacteria or virus, it is not necessary that each bacterium or the microbe should have only one antigen. There will be more than one antigens, and each antigen in turn, any given antigen may have one or several epitopes. That means they have highly specific areas within the antigen which will elicit the formation of the antibody. So that part of an antibody that binds to the epitope is called the paratope. So epitope is the part of antigen which elicit the production of antibody. So thereby in the antibody also there will be some specific areas which are going to interact with the epitope. Those are called the paratopes. So each epitope is recognized by a different antibody which is induced by it. So that is, the paratope is going to basically recognize the epitope of the antigen in the formation of antigen antibody complex. Now we have some examples of common antigens. We have varieties of microbes and their toxins also will act as antigens. Then pollen, dust, fleas, mite feces, and surface proteins of blood cells, and we have even the surface proteins of the tissues and organs which are transplanted from one human to the another human, from one organism to the another organism. So this slide shows you the structure of antigen with the three different epitopes on its surface, and you can see we have three different antibodies producing three different types of paratopes. So these antibodies also, they try to modify their paratope so that they can form a antigen antibody complex, just like a lock and key mechanism. That means it is a highly specific mechanism of interaction leading to the neutralization. Then coming to the antibodies, let us know something about the antibodies. So antibodies are nothing but gamma globulins, or they are nothing but the immunoglobulins. What does it mean? All the antibodies are biochemically made up of gamma globulins or the immunoglobulins. These are nothing but the simple proteins. We know that simple proteins include albumins and globulins. So all the antibodies are immunoglobulins, but we cannot say that all the immunoglobulins are antibodies, because some of the immunoglobulins, they don't act as a antibodies, but they are there in the blood plasma and they also take part in the other types of biochemical reactions in the body of the organisms. So that means antibodies are only part of immunoglobulins, but all the immunoglobulins are not antibodies. They have got different functions also. But these antibodies, as I told you just now, they have specific receptor proteins. Those are nothing but the paratopes located in the blood plasma. The antibodies are present in the blood plasma and also other body fluids. So they can easily combine and neutralize the antigens by the formation of the antigen and antibody complex. But we must remember here the most important thing is that the adaptive immunity is highly specific, because the antibodies are again highly specific for the antigen, because it is the antigen which has stimulated their synthesis and release. So thereby obviously they will be highly specific. The antigen antibody complex activates a series of proteins that destroy the bacteria. Ultimately, the antigen antibody complex formation results in the destruction of the bacteria by means of opsonization, and also by the release of what we call the histamines, which will cause the inflammatory responses, including the phagocytosis, which we have studied in the last class. So you can see here if at all a bacteria enters into the body of organism, just because as per this diagram there are three different antigens, the body of the organism has to produce three different types of antibodies so that they can form the antigen antibody complex. Now let us study something about the different types of antibodies present in the humans particularly. So as I told you already, they belong to the gamma globulins. So they are part of plasma proteins or the serum proteins. Each antibody will be having a Y-shaped structure, a T-shaped structure formed by the coiling of polypeptides. Polypeptides means polymers of amino acids. But here you can see there are two heavy chains, two long chains with more number of polypeptides, and two small chains are the light chains. And the two arms, particularly the two arms of the Y-like structure, is having the additional light chains. So all the immunoglobulins are not antibodies, as I told you. Another important thing is the tip of the two arm-like structure usually have the antigen binding site, or it is a variable site because this site is going to change its paratope according to the structure of the epitope. So thereby, though we have only 5 kinds of antibodies, as you see here, we have immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin M, immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin D, and immunoglobulin E. Only 5 types of antibodies. The paratope on the antibodies at the variable end of the antibody can undergo mutation or the change, a structural change, so that the antigen or the epitope of the antigen can specifically form the antigen antibody complex in this region. That is why it is also called the highly variable region of the antibody. So this slide I am basically showing you to understand how the antibody or the immunoglobulin is formed. This is the 3D structure, the molecular structure of the antibody, where you can see there is a polyglycan chain, small chain, and a heavy chain, and also the light chains. And they also have the variable ends at which the antibody is going to combine with the antigen, forming antigen antibody complex. So this 3D structure helps us to understand how is it possible to form this antigen antibody complex. So coming to the nature of other antibodies, as I told you just now, we have 5 types of antibodies. Here you can see immunoglobulin A, IgA, is mainly dimer. You can see it is found by 2 units of antibodies. So here IgD is but monomer. Similarly, IgE and IgG both are monomers, but IgM is a pentamer. It is made up of 5 units of basic structure of antibody, which we have studied just now. Then coming to the IgA, IgA is a monomeric antibody in the blood or in the serum, but it becomes dimeric with the secretory components in the lumen of the gastrointestinal tract and also in the respiratory tract. The main function of this particular antibody is to neutralize the microbes and toxins. So thereby this antibody is also found in the breast milk, in the milk of the mother, where it will try to protect the infant in the early childhood because they still must have not developed the immunity. So babies are born with a very low levels of IgA. That is the reason why the mother will try to supply this particular antibody to the infant. Similarly, we have IgG, which is usually produced after IgM. IgM is basically produced in the primary infection, whereas in the secondary infection, usually we have the IgG as a secondary response. So thereby, out of the total amount of immunoglobulins which are found in the blood of an individual, nearly 72 to 75%, 70 to 75% of immunoglobulins are IgG type. That means it is the most prevalent antibody found in the blood of an individual. So it is produced in large amounts during secondary response. So you know that secondary response is mainly due to the memory cells, memory B cells and T cells. Thereby, the amount of this immunoglobulin produced will be obviously more in number. Then another important feature of this IgG, because from the competitive examination point of view, they are keep asking such questions. This is the only, we can say, the immunoglobulin which can cross the placenta. So thereby, inside the womb of the mother also, this particular antibody will cross the various layers of placenta and it will give passive immunity to the fetus. Passive immunity means it is time bound for a short period. So that means it will try to protect the fetus during the period of gestation. So thereby it protects even the newborn babies. This particular immunoglobulin also persists throughout the life, but in the small amounts. But as per the need of the body, the amounts will shoot up, particularly during the secondary response. Again, as I already told you, this particular immunoglobulin will be produced mainly by the memory cells after the primary response. And regarding its function, this particular immunoglobulin neutralizes the microbes and toxins. It also opsonizes antigens for phagocytosis, and it also activates the complement system. That means we all have studied all these responses as the humoral responses in the second line of defense mechanism. So that means IgG is one of the important antibodies which plays very important role in the second line of body defense. So you can see it is eliciting or it is stimulating various types of humoral responses, that is neutralizing the microbes and toxins, opsonizing antigens for phagocytosis, and also activating the complement system. Then coming to the IgM. So immunoglobulin M is secreted initially during the primary infection. This is very, very important. That means only during adaptive immunity, during the third line of defense mechanism, we can see the formation of this particular immunoglobulin. So that means it needs time. That means the production of this particular antibody requires a very long lag period. And another feature, very interesting feature about this is, in the clinical studies, this particular IgM levels will be tested as a marker of recent infections. That means it indicates the novel presence of IgM in the blood plasma indicates the infection by the novel pathogens or the new pathogens. Then, of course, as we know that once the same pathogen re-enters the body, second time the IgG will be produced. So thereby what will happen is that the levels of IgM will go down. That means the levels of IgM are not constant, it will be highly transient. So again and again, if the body is getting infected by novel or the new types of infections, obviously the concentration of IgM will be high. Otherwise, it will go down after some time. Another important feature of this IgM is that this IgM antibody will be usually expressed on the surface of the B cells. It will be found on the surface of B cells, that means on the plasma membrane of the B cells also. The main function of this particular IgM is to activate the complement system. That means which leads to the lysis of the pathogen, which we have studied in the last class. So coming to the IgD, so it is also monomeric immunoglobulin or the antibody, and the major function is not very clear. Antibody is produced when the antigen stimulates or mainly different kinds of other neutrophils like B lymphocytes, basophils and mast cells. So that means there is a lot of scope, the scope for research in this field. Then coming to the IgE, so IgE mainly mediates type 1 type of hypersensitivity. So already we know what is meant by sensitivity and hypersensitivity. That is nothing but the body's reaction or the immune response to the non-pathogenic antigens, which are called the allergens. So during the allergic reactions, our body will try to produce this type of antibody that is called IgE. So it is a monomeric form, and as I told you just now, the main function and its application is that it is associated with the anaphylaxis, and it also plays very important role in the immunity to the helminthic parasites. Those are nothing but the large pathogens, large parasites. Similarly, in the diseases like allergic diseases like allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis and parasitic diseases, this concentration of this particular antibody is found to be more. Now we'll come to the important part and very interesting part of the adaptive immunity, that is the identification of the self and non-self, or distinguishing self and non-self. So how does our body will do that? So this is again an inherent ability. We are all born with this ability, that is the ability to produce a very important protein called major histocompatibility complex, or MHC molecule. So this MHC protein is a receptor protein. It is found on the surface of the cells, all the cells, and all these cells of our body have specific genes. Those genes are the linked genes. This is a cluster of tightly linked genes, and the chromosome number 6 in the case of humans. So these genes code for a protein molecule that is called MHC, antigen receptor protein. So this protein is found attached to the surface of the body cells. All the body cells have the capacity to produce a protein called MHC class 1 molecule. Class 1 MHC is a surface protein located on the surface of all the human cells. It is basically, it acts as a receptor protein or the antigen protein. It is going to combine with the epitope of the antigen. So these MHC antigens are used by our immune system to recognize its own and also the foreign materials. Then we also have class 2 MHC antigens, which are found only in some special cells like dendritic cells, macrophages and B cells. So that means all the host cells express self-antigens and also have the capacity to present non-self antigens for the activation of adaptive immune system. That means our adaptive immune system, a third line of defense mechanism, will get activated because all our body cells, each and every cell in our body and also some special cells of our body have got the capacity to identify self antigens and also the non-self antigens. So thereby the body will elicit a highly specific adaptive immunity. So we come to the conclusion that all the cells have got this capacity to identify self and non-self antigens, but some cells like dendritic cells, B cells and macrophages are equipped with special immune stimulator receptors for enhanced activation of T cells, and thereby only these three types of cells, they are called the antigen presenting cells. So this is something like somebody will catch hold of the thief when the thief enters a colony or something like that. So somebody will catch hold of the thief, they will identify the thief, then that particular person will start shouting so that the others will join him, so that the police will join him to nab the thief. So such types of cells which will confront the pathogens for the first time, They are called the antigen presenting cells. Now let us understand this particular mechanism of antigen presentation. It is a very interesting mechanism. How do these cells do? Particularly the dendritic cells, B cells and macrophages, they engulf the exogenous pathogens like bacteria, parasites or toxins, because most of these pathogens, they don't enter into our host cells. They remain in the extracellular fluid. So thereby these cells, dendritic cells, macrophages and also B cells, because they will be migrating or flowing through the blood in the body of the organism, so they can confront these pathogens and they try to engulf them by means of phagocytosis. And of course, this is highly specific receptor mediated phagocytosis, and they will try to digest them and they try to move through the blood along with this engulfed pathogen. So during their migration, they usually, after catching hold of this pathogen, they try to move towards the lymph nodes so that they can inform the other policemen of the body that those are nothing but the T lymphocytes. So during their migration, after engulfing the exogenous pathogens like bacteria, parasites or toxins, these cells, they migrate towards the T cells which are stored in the lymph nodes. So during the migration through the blood, they undergo maturation by using their cellular enzymes to break down the pathogen into small pieces of antigen. So this is basically an antigen which is exogenous. So that's why they try to engulf them and they try to mix them with the lysozymes, lytic enzymes which are there in the lysosomes, which are stored in these cells. So thereby they break down the pathogen and they try to identify the epitope of the antigen so that they can present it to the other lymphocytes in the lymph nodes. So in the lymph nodes, the dendritic cells will display these non-self antigen on its surface by coupling them to a self receptor called major histocompatibility complex 2, that is MHC class 2 molecules, which activate the T helper cells or CD4 cells. Now I hope you have followed. What is the function of this antigen presenting cells? Basically, they try to collect the epitope and they mix this epitope. They present this epitope along with binding the epitope with MHC class 2 molecules. So thereby I told you the MHC class 2 molecules, they have the receptors for this epitopes of the exogenous antigen, the antigen which is present only outside the host cells. But there are some pathogens like viruses. These viruses, they try to enter into the cells, host cells. Then the pathogens are said to be endogenous pathogens because they are entering into the cells, and the antigens of the pathogens are said to be endogenous antigens. We know endo means something inside. So the host cells, that means all the body cells have got the capacity to identify the viruses or the endogenous antigens. So the host cells which are infected with the viruses, we know very well that the viruses will try to multiply along with the host cell. That means along by imbibing the DNA or the RNA of the virus into the host DNA. So they use the enzymes to digest the viral protein. So host cell will make use of the enzymes of the cytoplasm, again lysozymes, to digest the viral proteins and display these pieces, the pieces of viral protein which are digested by the host cells, particularly the epitopes of the viruses on their surface to T cells. Again, those are nothing but the cytotoxic T cells, by coupling them to MHC class 1 molecules. So these endogenous antigens will be identified by the CD8 cells or the cytotoxic T cells. That means here MHC class 1 molecules play a very important role by attaching themselves or by acting like the receptor proteins, they catch hold of the epitope of the viruses and they present this epitope to the CD8 cytotoxic T cells, so that these cells, they go and kill particularly the infected host cell. So we are going to understand better a little later. Suppose if our body fails to understand or differentiate these non-self proteins are the antigens from the self antigens, it will lead to autoimmune diseases like rheumatic fever and rheumatoid arthritis, which are commonly found in the humans. So where our antibodies produced by our own body, they try to attack the self antigens. So thereby we have the autoimmune diseases. So this is one of the very important and very interesting slide showing how the body recognizes the foreigners, that those are nothing but the foreign antigens, and tries to destroy them. So you can see here, this is a antigen presenting cell which has engulfed the pathogen by means of phago. This pathogen, because this is a body cell, so here the pathogen is endogenous, or we can say the antigen is endogenous. It has entered into the cells, so it has started multiplying. So during the multiplication, the host cells will identify the antigen fragment, and they are presenting the antigen fragment outside the host cell by attaching the antigen to the MHC class 1 molecules. So only when it is found attached to the MHC class 1 molecule, our T cells, cytotoxic T cells, they will be able to identify them. So at that time, the T cells, cytotoxic T cells or CD8 cells, they identify this particular antigen and they undergo maturation. So when they undergo maturation, they become cytotoxic. They start secreting varieties of cytokines so that they will be able to kill this infected host cell. Similarly, if the antigen is exogenous, that means if it is something like bacteria, it will definitely, so endogenous antigen is usually virus. So thereby there are some exogenous antigens like bacteria which will never enter into the host cell. So during that time also, our host cell will try to engulf it by means of phagocytosis, again collect the epitopes of the antigen and present that epitope of the antigen by attaching the epitope to the MHC class 2 molecule, so that another type of T cells called T helper cells, they will identify this antigen and they undergo maturation. They become activated. These activated helper cells in turn activate the B cells to produce the antibodies. When they identify, when they get stimulated, the B cells, they transform themselves into plasma cells. These plasma cells produce the antibody. Now you can see the antibody is fighting against the same antigen of the pathogen. Similarly, the activated helper cells, T helper cells, they also produce lot of cytokines which will also elicit various types of inflammatory reactions which we have already studied. So it is a very important mechanism. Then coming back to the third line of defense or the adaptive immunity. So in this immunity, we study largely about the functions of B cells and functions of T cells. So B cells, they show humoral responses through the production of antibodies, and T cells, they show cell-mediated response. Coming to the role of B cells in the third line of body defense. So B cells are non-phagocytic WBC cells. This is very, very important. You should remember that they don't take part in the phagocytosis. So these are very important lymphocytes. So they show only one type of response, that is response through the production of antibody. That is why it is called antibody mediated response. And these B cells, they are derived from bone marrow, stem cells, and they they stay and develop in the bone marrow itself. They don't go anywhere else. Later, they accumulate in the spleen and also in the lymph nodes. They'll be stored in the spleen and also in the lymph nodes and utilized as per the need of the body. But their production and maturation occurs in the bone marrow itself. The presence of antigens stimulates the lymphocytes, these B lymphocytes, to divide by mitosis. This is very important, mitosis. Thereby, it leads to the formation of same types of cells called the clones. So it results in the cloning of the B cells. And this is also called clonal selection. Why? Because it is highly specific. In the presence of antigen, they have got stimulated. That means they know which type of antibody they have to produce specifically. Later, then they undergo differentiation, that is maturation or the activation to plasma cells. And these plasma cells, they produce antibodies. 90% of cells, 90% of the B cells which are formed after the cloning or after the clonal selection, they are utilized in the production and release of antibodies into the blood with a shape that is nothing but the paratope, that is compatible with the epitope of the antigen in order to form the antigen antibody complex. Whereas 10% of cells, 10% of cells are retained. They also are already activated cells, stimulated cells. Thereby, they retain the ability to recognize the original invading pathogen or the antigen or the epitope for the future infections. So that it can be dealt with much quicker and more effectively, as they can produce large number of antibodies very quickly. So memory cells also play a very important role in the identification of the pathogen, mainly in the secondary infection. If at all the body gets infected by the same pathogen in the second time, that is called a secondary response, you can see there will be more quicker production of antibodies by these B memory cells. That means the effectiveness of the memory cells will be much more bigger. So B cells usually they'll be found stored in the lymph nodes, and that is the reason why you see the swelling of the body, particularly during the time of infection or when the body is fighting with the pathogens. So I told you in the last class that the tonsils, particularly if they get infected, particularly during the viral infection, you can see something like mumps or the edema will be found in the inflammation will be found in the tonsils, because the tonsils are nothing but the epithelial crypts storing a lot of B lymphocytes. Thereby you can see the swelling there. That indicates that your body is fighting against the germs. So this slide shows you, helps you how to understand the clonal selection of B cells, which is caused by the antigens. The entry of antigen, the epitope of the antigen stimulates the production of more number of B cells, the clonal selection it is called. So antigens, they have their own epitopes. So these epitopes are identified by the specific antibodies which are already there on the surface of the B cells. B cells have the surface proteins. These surface proteins are nothing but the antibodies. They are found attached to the B cells. So these antibodies, they can specifically identify the antigen. They can identify the antigen. So after identifying the antigen, they undergo what is called cell proliferation, multiplication, enormous multiplication. They start producing millions and billions and trillions of cells within no time. So that's why this is called clonal expansion or the clonal proliferation. So you can see there will be formation of specific type of B cells as per the need of the body. Again, 10% of B cells, they will be retained for the secondary infection in the form of memory cells. But 90% of these stimulated our activated B cells, they undergo further maturation into plasma cells, and these plasma cells, they have got only one job to do, that is the production of antibodies. So these antibodies, they are simply poured, are secreted, are released into the blood plasma, so that they'll be there and they'll be circulated throughout the body. So that is how our body is protected from these infections. Then what is the main function of these antibodies? So these antibodies, they try to help in fighting against the pathogens during the humoral response in the adaptive immunity by this following ways. They can combine with the antigen to cover its active site by forming antigen antibody complex. So this particular mechanism is called neutralization. What is happening is that the epitope of the antigen is going to specifically combine with the paratope of the antibody. So thereby there will be formation of antigen antibody complex. So thereby the toxic effect of the antigen will be removed from the blood or the blood plasma within no time. So thereby this reaction is also called the neutralization reaction or the neutralization mechanism. The antibodies also activate dissolution of cell wall or cell lysis by activating complement system. Similarly, if the antigen antibody complex is formed on the surface of the cell wall of the bacterium or the viruses, then definitely the bacteria or the virus will get immobilized. It will not be mobilized. So thereby what will happen is that the other types, so the other cells, they become activated or they'll be alarmed and they start activating the complement system. That is, series of proteins or the enzymes get activated so that ultimately the bacterial wall will be lysed and the bacterium will be killed. Similarly, the formation of this antigen antibody complex makes that particular pathogen more susceptible to phagocytosis. So that is because of the opsonization. Only when there is a formation of this, some of the pathogens, they cannot be killed by this phagocytes also, the cells like macrophages and neutrophils. Particularly, if at all the particular pathogen is immobilized by the formation of antigen antibody complex, in that condition, the pathogen is said to be opsonized. So after the opsonization, the phagocytosis will be more easy. That means they make this pathogen susceptible to phagocytosis. Antibodies make the pathogen susceptible to phagocytosis. So we have an example here, that is IgA antibody causes the bacteria to clump together and become less active so that it can be taken more easily to the lymph. That means the transport of the pathogen also becomes very easy, and the virility, the pathogenic effect of the bacterium also will be less. So apart from all this, the antibodies, the presence of antibodies and the formation of antigen antibody complex also activates other inflammatory reactions, which we have seen in the last class, that is the swelling and also the redness, increased body heat, and the formation of the pain or the feeling of the pain or generation of the pain. All these things are called the other inflammatory reactions, which are again activated by the presence of this antigen antibody complex. So thereby we understand that the role of B cells is very important in the adaptive immunity. They play a very important role in eliciting what we call the humoral response in the body through the formation of the antibodies. So the B cells, they themselves can identify the antigen, or sometimes they can also take the help of the T helper cells in the identification of the antigen or the epitope. Once they identify the epitope, they start undergoing themselves clonal selection or the clonal expansion. So later they start producing the plasma cells. Plasma cells in turn produce the antibodies. So these antibodies, they bring about varieties of humoral responses. These include neutralization, opsonization, phagocytosis, inflammation, lysis of microbe, and also the activation of complement system. So with that, we have come to the conclusion of, we have come to the end of humoral response or role of B cells in the adaptive immunity. Then at the end, what will happen to these B cells? So at the end, the humoral response, the B cells, they have to undergo the programmed cell death or the apoptosis. Why? Because the human body makes nearly 100 million lymphocytes every day. You may not believe, I told you while studying the first line of defense itself, we are all born with inherent innate abilities that within no time, from 0 to 12 hours of time, our body is trying to eliminate thousands of pathogens which are entering into our body. That means every day our body is producing nearly 100 million lymphocytes. If an equivalent number of lymphocytes are not killed or removed from the body, what will happen? The individual will not be healthy anymore. The increased number of lymphocytes in the blood leads to the cancer, which is nothing but the blood cancer or the leukemia. So thereby, the apoptosis also plays very important role in the humoral response at the end of the humoral response. So B cells that do not encounter stimulating antigen will self-destruct. That is very important. So though our body cell produces B cells, if at all they don't encounter any pathogen, if they eliminate all the pathogens in the body, they start killing themselves. They start activating, they stimulate themselves to self-destroy, and they send the signals to the other WBC cells like phagocytes to kill them and also to remove their debris. That is how the B cells usually, they undergo apoptosis, and they also stimulate other neutrophil cells to dispose of their remains. Many viruses also infect the host cells. So these host cells which are infected with the viruses, they also undergo the same apoptosis to help the prevent the spreading of the infection. Then coming to the role of T cells in the adaptive immunity, as I already told you, T cells are the T lymphocytes, but these are non-phagocytic WBC cells. They produce only a cell-mediated response, or it is also called cellular response, and they also try to destroy the antigens. But these T cells are also formed in the bone marrow. Those are having the lymphoid lineage of bone marrow stem cells, but they migrate to the thymus gland, which is present above the heart, to transform themselves into T lymphocytes. These T lymphocytes, they circulate throughout the body through the blood and also lymph, and they are stored again in the spleen, and they will be inactive till they come in contact with the antigens. So they will be inactive, they will be stored in the lymphoid organs like spleen and also the lymph nodes, and they will be inactive till they come in contact with the antigen. So once they come in contact with the antigen, they transform themselves into cytotoxic T cells, which are also called the killer T cells. If they are large in size, then they are called the natural killer cells. So these cells, they try to undergo maturation when they come in contact with the antigen, because they have identified the antigen, so they undergo themselves maturation to produce a specific type of chemicals. So these chemicals, they in turn, they destroy the antigens directly, because these chemicals which are produced by the cytotoxic T cells are highly specific biomolecules. So thereby, they also inhibit the replication of the viruses. Apart from that, the T cells, they also enhance the macrophage activity. Macrophages are nothing but the phagocytic activity. So once they kill these viruses or the viruses infected host cells, the debris of these dead cells should be removed from the body of the organism. So thereby they activate, they send signals to the macrophages also to bring about the phagocytic function. Similarly, the cytokines which are released by the cytotoxic T cells, they help to coordinate themselves with the B cells also. Those are the B cells are nothing but the B lymphocytes which will produce the antibodies. So as I already told you, natural killer cells are the type of cytotoxic T cells that destroy the abnormal host cells, such as large cancer cells. Those are infected mainly by the viruses. So apart from the cytotoxic T cells, we have another type of T lymphocytes. These are called T helper cells or helper T cells. They secrete interleukins, hormone-like messenger chemicals between the lymphocytes, which will enhance the antibody production by the B cells. As the name indicates, T helper cells, they help B cells to identify the antigen so that they can produce specific type of antibodies. And they also help, the T helper cells also help the cytotoxic T cells in their cell-mediated response. Apart from that, T helper cells also stimulate the macrophages for the phagocytosis. So in the case of AIDS, it has been found that the HIV virus infects mainly the T4 helper cells. So thereby their number will get reduced. Thereby the body will be able to not identify the antigens, and we fail to control the pathogens, and you know that the AIDS patient usually dies of the TB. So thereby the role of these helper cells also is very, very important in the identification of the pathogen and also in the activation of the other WBC cells. And about 10% of these T lymphocytes are always stored. Activated T lymphocytes are always stored in the form of T memory cells. So these T memory cells, they retain the ability to recognize the original invading antigen for the future action. So in future, if the infections occur by the same pathogen, so they try to react, the T memory cell, they try to react very quickly and more effectively to control the same pathogen. So thereby the secondary infections, they'll be more effective and quick. But definitely the T cells, different types of T cells, they play a very important role in the cell mediated response or the cellular response. So coming to the another type of cells which are called T suppressor cells. So T suppressor cells, as I already told you, these cells also play a very important role in the apoptosis process. So millions of cells are formed during the immunological reactions every day, and every day millions of cells will be destroyed by our body. So for the destruction, to initiate the apoptosis, again T suppressor cells, they also play a very important role, that they, on one hand, they try to activate the apoptosis, on the other hand, they turn off the immune responses to the antigens. Once the antigens are controlled, once the infection is controlled, they turn off the immune responses. That means they stop the production of various types of WBC cells. That's why they're called suppressor T cells. They try to suppress the production of other lymphocytes. Then this is another slide showing the cell mediated response here. So you can see MSC class 1 molecule, it is trying to identify the epitope of the antigen by binding with the antigen. So these class 1 molecules are found in almost all the cells of the body, and they help us to identify mainly the endogenous pathogen. So thereby they will be presented to the cytotoxic T cells. These cytotoxic T cells, after identifying the pathogen which is bound with the MSC class 1 molecules, they will undergo activation and they start producing lot of cytokines. So these cytokines, they are making pores, they are trying to lyse the body wall of the infected host cell or the pathogen. So thereby there will be formation of the pores, and ultimately it leads to the lysis of mainly the infected host cell. So thereby you can see the ions and water, it will try to ooze out of the infected cell, and the infected cell will undergo lysis or the breakdown. So that is how the cytotoxic T cells are going to bring about lysis in the body of the infected host cell. So infected host cell itself will send the signals to the cytotoxic T cells, and it will tell, it is communicating as though it is telling, look, I have got infection, so please come and try to kill me so that I'll not spread the disease. So this is a very beautiful mechanism which is observed in the by the all the host cells of our body, which are infected by mainly by the endogenous pathogen like the viruses. Same is the case in the case of infection by the coronavirus. That's why it is going to destroy. Now you understand that how the coronavirus is going to destroy the mucoepithelial cells of the respiratory system which are infected with this virus. Thereby the respiratory system is going to collapse. Now this is the role played by the T helper cells. As I told you, the T helper cells, they try to identify the pathogen which is exogenous. This exogenous pathogen, usually it is presented by the antigen presenting cells like macrophages or dendritic cells, and also the B lymphocytes. So they will identify this pathogen and they try to present the epitope or the antigen by attaching this epitope or the antigen to the MHC class 2 molecules, and which in turn will be identified by the T helper cells. So the T helper cells, they will not identify the antigen directly unless until it is attached to the MHC class 2 molecule. So during that time they undergo activation. When they undergo activation, they start producing mainly interleukins and other types of cytokines which will activate other cells, other lymphocytes like B cells. So that the B cells, they undergo maturation to form plasma cells and produce antibodies. Similarly, the cytotoxic T cells, they also get stimulated with the help of T helper cells, and they start the cell mediated response or the cellular response. So that is the function of cytotoxic T cells. So these cytotoxic T cells we can call the very powerful army men or the soldiers. Just like if an enemy enters our borders of the country, so the army people, they don't stop him and inquire what is his name and he's from which country and all. If they breach the borders, security of our country, so without any mercy, our soldiers, they have been trained to kill the invaders. So similarly, the cytotoxic T cells, they are said to be very powerful cells. They try to kill the pathogen within no time by identifying them as the invaders. So this is a summary of third line of defense or the adaptive immunity. It is adaptive immunity mainly consists of two types of responses, humoral response and cellular response. Humoral response includes the stimulation of B cells. B cells, when they undergo maturation, produce plasma cells to produce antibodies. So these antibodies, they can bring about neutralization or opsonization, and they can also activate the pathogens, macrophages, for the phagocytosis. Similarly, we have cell-mediated response or cellular response, which is brought about by the T cells, mainly two types of cells, T helper cells, which will help the B cells to produce antibodies. They also help macrophages for phagocytosis. They also help neutrophils to take up phagocytosis. They also help the neutrophils to produce interleukins and also to secrete antimicrobial peptides, so that the helper cells, they also help to break the multiplication of the pathogen inside the cells by producing antimicrobial peptides. Similarly, we have cytotoxic T cells, which will take the help of antigen presenting cells like dendritic cells, and they undergo maturation to transform themselves into cytotoxic cells. So these cytotoxic cells are the powerful soldiers of our body with the guns called the cytokines, which will try to kill the infected cells. So these infected cells, already we have discussed in the second line of defense, they also communicate to the cytotoxic T cells through the interferons. Apart from that, in the third line of defense, just because B cells and T cells are just, we can say, the sister cells, they interact a lot. Once an antigen enters the body, it is ingested and processed by the macrophages. When the engulfing an antigen, the macrophages display fragments of antigen on their outer membrane, which both B and T cells recognize. So the antigen presenting cells, they are not presenting the antigen only to a specific type of cells. When they present the antigen, both B cells and T cells, they try to recognize the antigen. So thereby, the B and T cells, they work together in collaboration with each other because they are there in the close proximity, and often they try to make contact with each other. They try to communicate with each other. They are also both regulated by the cytokines. The production of this, both the types of lymphocytes, is regulated by the production of cytokines. And already we have discussed, cytokines are the proteins secreted by the T cells and macrophages that signal to the other cells to initiate the immune responses. Other cells like the B cells to transform themselves into plasma cells, so that plasma cells will produce the antibodies. B cells cannot function without the T helper cells that stimulate them to produce the antibodies. And the T helper cells induce B cells to divide and produce large number of clones. So the immune response is the reaction of an organism to either prevent or overcome an infection caused by an invading pathogen. So we come to the conclusion that the immune response, all the three types of body defense mechanism, the first, second and third line of body defense mechanism, which we call in total, the immune response is the reaction of an organism to either prevent or overcome an infection caused by the invading pathogen. The body recognizes the foreigner by their antigens and tries to destroy them. Again, let me tell you, for our study purpose, we have tried to divide the immune system into three lines of body defense, but there is no such natural demarcation as three lines of defense mechanism. Just like in our country, under the defense system, we have three types of defense, that is Army, Air Force and Navy. They, at the time of attack, they try to fight together. They don't wait for each other to wage a battle and win or lose, isn't it? Similarly, whenever the pathogen enters, irrespective of the line of defense, whether it is the first line of defense, second line or third line of defense, continuously our body will try to fight against the pathogens, identify the pathogens and try to eliminate the pathogens. Just for the sake of our studies, we are trying to divide the three lines of defense mechanism. Ultimately, our body, in the body, the three types of lines or the three types of defensive mechanisms, they put together, they try to control the pathogen. So this is what is going to happen, particularly in the case of the earth also. here in this slide, there is a beautiful depiction of Earth somewhere in the year 2050 producing antibodies to the human race. So Earth tries to identify the human race, which is said to be antigenic. That means it is harmful to the Earth. So if we don't try to change ourselves and increase our eco-friendly activities, probably Earth may try to identify us as a non-self or antigenic or harmful pathogen, and it will try to produce antibodies like coronavirus, probably to protect itself. It is a very beautiful slide which has predicted a coronavirus probably long ago, maybe after a few years, around 2050, but it is so unfortunate that we are facing it today. So at the end, as we all have, we know something about immunity. Now we can try to understand the various classifications of the immunity again. This is only for the human purpose. We try to understand and apply the knowledge of immunity in the day-to-day life. For that purpose, we are trying to classify the immunity into different types. That is natural immunity and acquired immunity. So as the name indicates, natural immunity means this is a immunity we acquire naturally. That means during the lifetime, we try to, it may be like inherent or it may be adaptive. By natural means, whenever we come across the pathogens, we try to develop the immunity. That is a natural. But acquired immunity means we may not be infected with the pathogen, but still we try to take vaccines. And in foreign countries, there will be something like chickenpox parties also. The smallpox parties are conducted so that the children will acquire these pathogens and they develop the immunity. So during such cases, we call such type of immunity as a acquired immunity. Again, the immunity, whether it is a acquired immunity or natural immunity, it may be active immunity or passive immunity. Active immunity means it is a long-term immunity. It is developed by your body by natural means. Usually it will take its own time. For the development, lag period will be usually high, so thereby it will be, again, the memory will be memory period will be again very long memory period, so thereby the person will be protected for a long time. So thereby that immunity is called active immunity. Whereas passive immunity means the immunity is short-term immunity. Temporarily the body of the individual will be protected. That's why it is called passive. Again, whether it is active or passive, it may be naturally acquired or artificially acquired. What is meant by naturally acquired? Active immunity. It is a long-term immunity which can be acquired naturally also. Again, by clinical means or subclinical infections. So we can try to give heat-killed or attenuated pathogen to the individual and we try to develop the naturally active immunity. Similarly, we can also have artificially acquired immunity. That is, we give the antigen containing preparations, vaccines to the body so that the body will develop the antibodies. Again, it is active immunity. Our body is trying to develop the antibodies, which is again going to be very long term. But what we are doing is we are trying to inject some antigens. So it is done by the clinics. But naturally means obviously we'll try to acquire the pathogen through the natural means. Again, the passive immunity also, short-term immunity, can be natural or artificial. Naturally means the mother protects the fetus. We have studied particularly the immunoglobulins which pass through the placenta. They protect the developing fetus for the 9 months. Similarly, mother's milk, the nursing mothers, they try to protect the infant as long as they'll be fed with the breast milk. So these are all naturally acquired but temporary. That means short-term passive immunity, which will be given naturally from mother to the fetus or the infant. Similarly, we have passive immunity, which is artificially acquired. Like you go to the doctor if you have an infection, but is not controlled for a long time, take the antibiotics. We have the antibiotic injections also. Those are called the injections of the antisera, or the plasma, which is tried even in the case of the coronavirus. So that is going to give the individual only a temporary relief. As long as the person is under the antibiotics, say if you take the antibiotics particularly for a course of 3 days or 5 days, you will be protected for a month or so. So in the next month, we never know that if at all the pathogens, they try to mutate, they may overcome the body of the patient because the patient has not developed the active immunity. That is the drawback of the passive immunity. So patient may be protected temporarily by giving the injections of the plasma proteins or the serum proteins or antiseral proteins, and also by giving oral antibiotics, and also the penicillin like injections, antibiotic injection. So thereby we have natural immunity, so where the individual will develop the resistance to the infections. And we know that some people will have the better immunity than the others. We can give the example that the two friends, they go and have the pani puri in the same stall. One will be healthy, the other one may develop the gastrointestinal problems because the other one is not having the natural immunity as good as the first one. Similarly, we have the acquired immunity. So during our lifetime also, we try to acquire this immunity. Again, the acquired immunity may be natural or it may be artificial, as we have discussed just now. So if the person is exposed to the natural infection of in the day-to-day life, definitely we are going to develop very active immunity with a very long memory of immunity. So again, it is a naturally acquired active immunity. Similarly, we have artificially acquired active immunity, where we try to give the vaccines. So vaccines are nothing but the inactivated bacterial toxins or toxoids are killed, heat killed or attenuated microorganisms are given to the individual so that the individual will not be having the disease. He will be hale and healthy, but the body will try to develop the immune system, which is again active immune system. That's why it will be having a very long memory. But in the case of passive memory, the immunity will be short-lived. So as I already told you, the fetus is protected from the diseases inside the womb of the mother. Similarly, the nursing mother, through the breast milk, they try to protect the newborn baby. Similarly, artificially also, we can try to protect the individual through the passive immunity by giving the antibiotics, oral antibodies, or the tablets, or giving the serum antigens and also antibodies. So already we have studied one more type of classification, that is the immunity can be classified into innate, inherent ability, and also the adaptive immunity. Again, adaptive immunity is further divided into humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity. Then apart from this type of classification, there is one more important type of classification, that is called primary immunity and secondary immunity. What is primary immunity? When for the first time the body is exposed to an antigen, the body usually takes several days to respond and build up a large supply of antibodies. Till then, usually the patient suffers from the illness. It is a slow process with a very long lag period, or the lag phase, during which cells get activated, and the duration of lag phase varies from person to person depending on the nature of infection and also the immunological abilities of the individual. So you know that Why the lag period will be very high? Why? Because is the B cells, they need the time for their multiplication, stimulation, and also the differentiation to form the antibodies. Similar, the T cells also, they need some time to get activated by the antigen presenting cells, so that they start producing number of cytokines called the lymphokines, which will bring about the cell mediated response, ultimately leading to the death of the infected host cells. Similarly, it needs some time for the production of the memory cells. So thereby, the first and initial exposure of the body to the pathogens, which leads to the production of primary response of the body, is called primary immunity. It is triggered by natural entry of pathogens or by administration of the vaccine. The lag phase is usually set only after 3 to 4 days of first infection. Thereby, it is not necessary to go to the doctor immediately as soon as you get the fever. You should give some time for the body to react. If the fever becomes uncontrollable, that means if the body temperature goes beyond 102 degrees or sometimes 100 degrees or sometimes 102 degrees, then only you need to go to the doctor, so that you are giving the required lag period for the body to react, so that after 3 to 4 days, the body may probably develop the antibodies, and the increased levels of antibodies slowly reaches its peak level only after about 10 days of infection. Later, slowly, the levels of antibody in the blood of infected person will go down. That means the person has developed the primary immunity. So thereby, even in the case of coronavirus, you know that doctors, they want to give the quarantine period or the quarantine period for the individual for about 2 weeks time, because minimum 2 weeks time is required for the body to react in the case of primary immunity, particularly when the body is infected with the new or the novel viruses or the pathogens. Then what is meant by secondary immunity? When the antigen is encountered, when the body is encountered by the same antigen second time, then the body shows secondary response. So this secondary response definitely takes place with a much faster pace, and because the production of memory B cells and T cells is very quick. Often this results in the body being able to destroy the re-invading antigen before its number gets to a level where a person starts to display the pathogens. That means before we know that we have been infected with the pathogens. That's why I told you, within no time, from 0 to 12 hours of time, the body shows the second line of defense, which is nothing but the secondary immunity. So what is happening here is that before the development of symptoms, the body is able to react because of the memory B cells and T cells. So these memory B cells, they divide rapidly to produce plasma cells and antibodies, so that they destroy the pathogen. Similarly, the T cells also, they T memory cells, they also try to show the cell mediated response. So thereby the lag phase in the case of secondary immunity is very, very short. As I told you, it is 0 to 1 day or 2 days. And the decline in the antibodies is but slow. Why? Because the antibodies, they don't get eliminated from the blood plasma unless until they control the pathogen entirely. So thereby, in the case of vaccination also, the doctors, they try to give the booster doses of vaccine. So when we vaccinate, we are trying to elicit the primary immunity. When we are using the booster doses of vaccine, we are trying to elicit secondary response. So where usually IgG is produced. And we have seen IgM is formed, particularly in the primary response. So this is a very beautiful slide showing the graph with a very long lag period for the primary response, and the response is not very effective also. It is a less effective response. Whereas the secondary response is very quick and also very effective in terms of the production of antibodies. You can see in the primary response, less concentration of the antibodies are produced, whereas in the secondary response, there is a more concentration of antibodies produced, and that too within a short lag period. That is why the use of booster doses of vaccine is also recommended. So I hope you have understood what is meant by primary response and secondary response. Again, this is one more slide which help us to understand what is meant by primary response, what is meant by secondary response. In the primary response, we have a virgin pool of lymphocytes. That means these lymphocytes, they have not developed the capacity to identify the pathogen. That's why it is called virgin pool of lymphocytes. So once they have developed this primary response, they have transformed themselves into effector cells, which form 90% of this lymphocytes, whereas 10% of lymphocytes are used as both B and T lymphocytes. They are used as the memory cells, memory pool of cells. So these memory pool of cells, they will be stored in the lymphoid organs like spleen and also the lymph nodes. So where they show a very quick and effective secondary response when the same antigens invade the body. So during that time, they undergo activation to form again effector cells. Definitely, once again, they form the memory cells which will be stored in the body. So thereby, the booster doses of vaccines will definitely help us to develop a better immunity. So this particular characteristic feature of immunological memory is utilized in the process of infection. So whether it is a natural infection or the vaccination, you can see the only after the first infection, we are going to have the memory cells which will help us to fight against the germs during the secondary infection. But so primary infection is slow because pathogen will get more time to multiply. So thereby, we may have the expression of symptoms here. Whereas in the secondary infection, which is where the response of the body is very quick or fast, which is very effective. So thereby quickly the pathogens may be controlled. Thereby there may be no symptoms. We call such individuals who are carriers. That is the problem, particularly with the carriers, because in India particularly, most of Indians are carriers, because 80% of us, we carry both TB bacteria and also varieties of corona like viruses, but still absolutely we don't have any symptoms. But we may act as potential spreaders of the disease. So that is the problem with this type of infections. So anyhow, development of immunity is very good with respect to the individuals, though they may be carriers, but still it is going to save their lives. Similarly, we can make the immunity to develop by means of vaccination, because vaccination again is an active immunity which makes use of the development of natural immunity by means of utilizing the memory cells which try to develop adaptive immunity, or the third line of body response to fight against the unharmful pathogens in the form of vaccines. So vaccines, again, there are two types of vaccines. There are oral vaccines. You know, the polio vaccine is given orally, and we also have intravenous vaccines like BCG vaccine, which is given just below the skin subcutaneously. Apart from that, we have some intravenous vaccines also, like DPT vaccine, which is going to control the diphtheria, polio, and also the tetanus. And also we have the vaccine, BCG vaccine for the tuberculosis. So these vaccines, they try to boost our memory cells so that we'll be protected from the diseases. But before the year 1700s, many people were killed because of the smallpox virus. All over the world, smallpox was identified as a pandemic, just like coronavirus today. So in the world, in the year 1797, it was Edward Jenner, you know very well, that he has noticed that some milkmaids, they did not get the smallpox. So he injected a young boy with a cowpox and also then with the smallpox uh, attenuated virus, and noted that he did not contract the disease. So the first inoculation thereby developed from the sore of a milkmaid with the cowpox against a deadly disease that had been discovered. So the WHO introduced this vaccine worldwide in the year 1960s and has now eradicated the smallpox. You know that vaccination is the only alternative to control various types of diseases like the coronavirus. So apart from the vaccination, we can also develop the antibiotics. And we know that for the first time, antibiotic like penicillin, which was discovered by the Alexander Fleming, for which he has got the Nobel Prize also. So he has tried to develop this vaccine immediately after the World War II. So why? Because there's many people, they started dying after the World War. So he developed this particular vaccine accidentally from the penicillium mold, so which has saved the life of many people. So thereby, in the market even today, we have varieties of broad spectrum antibiotics. We have oral antibiotic tablets, very varieties of them are there, the amoxicillin, or we have ampicillin and all those things. And again, we have the injections of them. So they give the passive immunity. And this particular immunological studies, they play a very important role in the organ transplantation. The study of immunology has helped the medical field in bringing about conveniently the organ transplantation. The main problem in the organ transplantation, which involves the transplantation of organs like kidney, liver, heart, lung, and bone marrow, the main problem is that the tissues may be having a non-compatibility. The tissues, they'll not be having compatibility. The compatibility is with regard to the MHC molecules. We have studied just now what is meant by major histocompatibility. So if there is no major histocompatibility, then the tissues, they start rejection. They try to reject the non-self tissues as the non-self tissues, because our body host cells, they identify the self tissues. So thereby, during the time of organ transplantation, usually in the medical field, immunosuppressors, some biochemical molecules called the immunosuppressors, are used to suppress the immunity of the receiver, so that he will not reject the tissues and organs of the donor. We have studied the immunosuppressor cells, T cells, three T lymphocytes, which are called T suppressor cells or T regressor cells. So the activity of such T lymphocytes is utilized in the organ transplantation. So here I want to share a simple video clip which will try to help you to understand various immunological reactions. Here you can see how our body cells, natural killer cells, they are trying to kill infected host cell by the virus. So here you can see neutrophils going in search of bacteria. They are mainly involved in phagocytosis. That's why I call them as Hoysala policemen. So these are genetically engineered T cells, cytotoxic T cells killing cancer cells. This is one of the applications of immunological studies or immunology. So again, coming back to our original discussion. So at the end, let me remind you that immunology is nothing to do with the health of the individual. Under immunology, we'll try to understand only how our body is trying to keep itself free from the diseases. So according to WHO, if you want to be healthy, you have to do so many things. There are 12 tips given by the WHO to keep up the health, that is to have a healthy diet, to do the physical activity regularly, to get vaccinated, and to avoid harmful habits like having tobacco, alcohol, or unsafe sex. Similarly, to maintain both physical and mental health and involve oneself in meditation and to have good other behaviors like not to drink and drive, to wear helmet, and to go to regularly for the health checkup, and also to breastfeed the babies. That means health means definitely a overall physical, mental, and social well-being of the individual. So, but definitely the study of immunology helps us to understand and keep our body more healthy. Then at the end, let us discuss some of the important likely questions which can be asked based on our today's lecture. Write a note on role of B lymphocytes in body defense. Second one, what is adaptive immunity? Explain briefly. Third one, discuss the functions of T lymphocytes in body defense. Fourth one, explain the role of antibodies in body immunity. Fifth one, what are antigens? Sixth one, give an account of identification of self and non-self antigens. Seventh one, briefly write about the role of immunosuppressors. Eighth one, write an explanatory note on vaccination in man. Ninth one, what is natural or artificial, acquired or active or passive or primary or secondary immunity? Question may be framed like based on various topics. Then what is clonal expansion or selection of cells in body immunity? With that, we have come to the end of our lecture series on the body defense system or the immunology. So at the end, definitely you have to thank your MHC molecules or the MHC cluster proteins which are coded by the cluster genes which are located on the chromosome number 6. In the case of humans, definitely you have to thank your genes which are going to give you a healthy immune system. Thank you, all of you, for listening to this lecture with lot of patience.